See me. Alright, so it's the last day. We're going to go ahead and get everything installed. We've got the electrical part all finished, so there's electrical upgrades, all good. Again, thank you to Excess Power for the battery, and we ran all the new wiring and everything. So now our next step would be to run his speaker wires to the front doors, and then run the speaker wires up to the rear deck. Where we've got the SA 5 1/4 in the front doors, and then the SA 6x9s in the rear. Then if you look in front of me, we've got a box, we've got an amplifier, we've got a subwoofer, and a dust cap. So since this is the last part of the install, it's all coming together now, and I can see what we're actually going to do. So this box right here, this was built by George Morris, right? So George Morris out of Extreme Audio and Customs, and where's he located?
Alveda Springs, Louisiana.
Alveda Springs, Louisiana.
Yep.
So if you're in the Louisiana area, well, Louisiana's huge, but if you're in that area, go ahead and hit up George Morris. He's been a dealer with us for a very long time, and he was gracious enough to build this here box for Donnie. Actually, check this out.
Thanks, George.
There's some nice etching done in here. He's got a double baffle. It should be about 2 cubic foot, somewhere in that range, 2 to 35 hertz. He put some LEDs in here, so when you turn the LEDs on, this etching actually lights up, and it'll actually look really cool when we get. So we actually have to wire that too. I kind of forgot about that, so we have to get that all situated. Then this right here is a dust cap. See if you can see that. That Ray Piera made for Donnie. It's Halloween themed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Donnie's a big horror guy, so this is Halloween themed. It's a dust cap. It'll fit right on the top of the dust cap for the SA12, and that'll go on there. And then we've got, well, obviously the SA12. We'll pull that out later because we have to mount it in the box. This right here is a prototype amplifier. This is the SFB, I think we're going to call it the 1800.5. It's a 5-channel amplifier. Yeah, there's some tape on it. It's a prototype, so it looks kind of weird right now. But this is an SFB series 5-channel amplifier we're going to use. The 5th channel on this is 1,000 watts, which will pair very well with the SA12 version 2 dual 2. I don't really remember what the 4 channels were. I think at 4 ohms they're 100 watts apiece. I don't remember I don't remember the numbers we got off of it. If you want to see the numbers you get off of this, go check out Sundown Unofficial, where Derek put this on the amp dyno, and you can see what kind of power it puts out. But again, it's a prototype. This should be in production hopefully by the end of 2020. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, 1 amp to do the whole system, and that way we don't have to do multiple amps. So we're going to hook all this up. Again, we have to run the speaker wire first to the doors, and we're going to show you how we do that. We're actually going to tap in to the speaker wires in the kick panels, and then that way we don't have to run through the the boot that goes into the door. Yeah, go ahead and keep watching. Hope you enjoy it. All right, so like I said, George Morris from Extreme Audio and Customs, he sent us this enclosure. It's a curved enclosure. I believe it's 1.75 cubic foot, tuned to 35 hertz. It's got nice curving in here. We'll go ahead and show you the inside. We have to wire up the woofer in here, and we need to wire up the lights. Let me show you this real quick. He sent us this here product from Kicker. It's an RGB controller. Basically, he's got the wires or the lights already wired up on the inside of this glass piece here. And we have this product. I believe this is from SMD. I'm not 100%, but this basically we're going to wire up the woofer in parallel. It'll come through the wires will go to these here pieces. We'll just do individual wires to each coil, since these terminals are big enough. We can just fit them in there. That gets crimped on, put on there, and then from here it goes to the amplifier. The 5th channel of the amp has two outputs, but it's still a mono amp, so it doesn't matter how we wire it as long as everything's in parallel. And then the LED RGB wires come through here out of the enclosure and come out of here as well, and those go to the controller box. So we're gonna go ahead and wire this up and get the woofer in here. Probably screw the brackets on the box too, that way everything's kind of in the box and ready to go and we can screw it in place. It's hard to tell, but there's some nice, there's a 45 down in there. So it curves right in here, it goes down, and he 45s it on the inside. There's a second piece of wood with a bevel on it as well, and he's got pocket screws that hold everything in place. It's glued and screwed. And this wire you see here is the one for the RGB wires, and that hole is where the terminals go. So we're gonna go ahead and wire all this up. Okay, so now that we have all the wires run from front to back, they all come up through here. We've got some cable management holding these wires in place. So they all come up through this area, which is where the amp's going to sit. I've flapped them over to the back seat, that way we can put the panels back in here. And once we get those panels in here, we're going to set the speaker box in its place, and that will tell us where, how much room we have where the amp rack's going to sit. That way we can build the amp rack. And then all these wires will come through and hook up to the amp. And we can get this all buttoned up and ready to go. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and measure the distance I have between right here and here. I'm going to put a panel right here and another panel that goes up here, so it'll be a right angle, and then there will be a 45, essentially it'll be a 45, and that amp's going to sit on that 45, and there'll be a gap in here, and that's going to create a run for the wire to come up through, and then we've got brackets for the amp, or I'm sorry, for the box here, and brackets, that way the box doesn't move around, and that will screw into the board we have. So we're about to go do that now. Okay, so we have this dust cap here that Ray made us, and we want to put this on our woofer. But his dust cap and our dust cap, the diameter is the same, however the height is a little different. In order for us to get this dust cap on there, we're going to have to cut a portion of the old dust cap off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut just kind of a quarter of the way up, all the way around. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's going to leave a valley for our glue to sit in. And then I've already sanded this dust cap, and you just have to score this up in here with a knife or sandpaper if you've got it. And that's going to leave something for the glue to sit on, and we're going to use E6000. That's the best glue to use for a dust cap. And now that we have the dust cap in place, we're going to use a dust cap weight. We actually make these dust cap weights. You can purchase them from us. They're expensive, but we do make them. All right. All right, cool. And now we have to let this sit. In all honesty, it needs to sit for 24 hours before you play the woofer. But we're going to let it sit for a good portion of the day before we install this woofer in the box. Alright, so we pre-drilled some holes here. Donnie's going to go ahead and wire this woofer up. We've got 2 runs of wire to go to our terminal block on the inside. They're equal length runs. They're both 12 gauge. And this is, in my opinion, the best way to wire the subwoofer if you just have a single woofer. So basically you're going to have 2 runs of wire, and you're going to go to a central point. And that central point, basically this gives you an equal basically an equal amount of power to each coil. There's no jumping from one side to the other. There's no daisy chaining, and it's all good to go. So we're going to wire this up, and then we're going to drop the woofer in place. Like I said, we pre-drilled the holes, and we're actually going to use some deck screws. There's plenty of different types of screws you can use. You don't want to use drywall screws though, but we're going to use these deck screws. They have a hex bit that comes with them, but I have my own anyway. It's just a good screw. The color doesn't really matter. It's just really, you want a nice coarse thread. Some people use spack screws, but anything that's a good strong screw that's going to hold, these will work really well. These are meant for decks, and they're meant for harsh weather. These will definitely work in our box.
You got the sound switch.
On second thought, we're not going to put any deadener in here. When we take these speakers out of the rear deck, if you noticed right here, they put like a weather stripping foam material. We're going to do the same thing with the new 6x9s. We're going to put some foam up there. That way they don't hit the rear deck piece that comes up here. And we're also going to use some weather stripping just in some high spots, so when the rear deck fits, the panel fits back on, it doesn't vibrate anywhere. But we're not going to put any deadener in. The reason being is we want all the bass from the trunk to try to get its way into the cabin as best as we can. If we deaden this off, that will restrict the sound wave from getting into the cabin. The only time you really need to deaden off your rear deck is if you are having your woofers facing this way and your back seats are down. That way you can seal off the trunk. But right now we're not sealing off the trunk from the cabin. We want all the airflow as much as we can to get into the cabin. So instead of doing deadener, we're going to go ahead and put some weather stripping in. Alright, just for comparison, check these guys out here. Big difference in motor structure for sure. So if you notice, this one has this this foam weather stripping material. We're going to go ahead, we bought some weather strip, we're going to put it around the edge here just to do the same thing, because the rear deck panel kind of lays slightly on top of this, and with the added excursion that this new speaker has, we don't need it hitting the panel. So we're going to do the same thing the factory did and put some weather strip on that as well. So you just went to Lowe's and grab some weather stripping. Yeah.
It's a 1/2 inch.
Yeah, I wanted to get some 1/4 inch, but we just couldn't find it.
Significantly bigger than that.
Yeah, it is pretty damn big. Actually, by looking at this, you might have to do this in weird little strips, because it's going to cover these holes if we don't do it in weird strips. So, let's see here. Yeah, I think what we'll do is I'm going to cut this in segments. That way we can still get to the screws, the screw holes. Otherwise, it's going to cover up the screw holes. Now, if you can find 1/4 inch, that'll work too. That'll probably be better, but we couldn't find 1/4 inch where we were, so we had to go with 1/2 inch. When you do this, you don't want to touch the surround. You kind of want to go about 1/8 inch from the surround. And be very careful when you're doing this.
And cut the frame.
You don't want to touch. You don't want to cut the speaker anywhere. There we go. So if you look, I've got a little gap between the surround and the weather stripping. Now that we got the weather stripping on our speakers and everything's pressed into place, we're going to go ahead and install these bad boys in the rear deck. Woo. What? No, man, we need to cut the holes. Yep, you gotta cut the hole. Oh boy. Let's see here. Now, why do you gotta make things so fucking difficult? What about the cut? The frame. Yeah, fuck, that's way off here. Sons of bitches, you know? Well, here's one thing you can do about this guy. You can go in from the bottom, flip them. I don't know if the holes line up. So go ahead and take that speaker out. Alright, so what we just found out is that the speaker does not 100% fit in the factory hole. There's a couple options we can do with this. We can cut it out with a Dremel or something of the sort. But I think we might be able to, if we flip those factory tabs, the screw tabs, upside down, and then bring the speaker in from the bottom, I think we'll be all right. Actually, I was a little surprised that they were mounted from the top in the first place. So we could keep the weather stripping on. That's fine. That'll work just fine. Go in from the trunk and bring the speaker in. The only thing we have to find out is if the holes line up. Is if the holes don't line up, then we're gonna have a tough time. So let's figure this all out real quick, and then we'll get back. Let's see. All right, so you guys, you see these little tabs here? So I'm gonna pinch these while Donnie uses a flathead screwdriver, and we're gonna pop these up. We're gonna flip them around, put them in from the bottom side, and then hopefully our speaker can get screwed in from that way. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, now.
Yeah.
It's so farting. I'm in the trunk and I'm farting and I can't stop. Oh, it smells so bad.
Tell me that was on video.
It is. I'm recording.
Oh my god.
I don't know what the video can see. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and
I think you can see a cloud.
take these clips and put them in from the bottom side. I don't know what you guys saw, so because I had to put the camera down. But anyway, I'm gonna do the same thing here. All right, so I'm just gonna push these in. Alright, again, I don't know what all you guys saw because I got the camera sitting down.
Oh god, this side smells real bad.
I farted in here, so it's really bad. And I'm in the trunk. Anyway, so we put the clips in upside down, and we're going to go ahead and put the speaker up there and see if we can get that to screw in that way. I hope to God it does. So don't worry about this part. So this is the factory plug. I'm actually going to just cut this and wire it into the speaker for now until we get the amplifier in. That way we at least have sound in here. But don't worry about this. I'm just going to go ahead and put the speaker in place real quick. Alright, so off camera, because it's impossible to hold this camera while you're doing any work, we got the screws in from the bottom side. The weather stripping just kind of holds it in place, you know, keeps a good seal too. So we went ahead and did that, and just gotta wire this up, and I gotta do the other side now too. But so if you're putting 6x9s, you know, aftermarket 6x9s in this car, you might have to do it from the bottom side, or you're gonna have to cut that hole out because of our frame. Honestly, was just too wide. Just only by maybe 1/8 of an inch all the way around, or not even. It's just too big to fit in here. So flip the speaker around, do it from the bottom side, and it works just fine. I can breathe. Oh, hello. All right, so here's the speaker in place. I had to kind of cut some of the foam or the weather stripping out of the way so it didn't touch the surround, but for the most part, there, and we're good there. And now we're gonna go ahead and put some weather stripping kind of just in lines here. That way the rear deck doesn't really vibrate too much on the metal. So so the rear deck, it comes up and it sits on this top ledge right here. Okay, so it comes and slopes down to this ledge here. And if you look, you know, the speaker the speaker is kind of sitting down low, so that's a good thing. I'm still gonna put a piece of weather stripping up in here. We gotta clean this off first, but put some weather stripping here. Maybe a few lines down in here. That way it doesn't vibrate as much. Again, this is all kind of open because it sits so high up, but then it comes down right about in here, and then it hits this metal. So we're going to put some weather stripping up in here and maybe a few up in here just to kind of stop some vibrations. Alright, so got a piece here, over there, and we do the same thing on this side. And again, all that's doing is helping prevent a lot of vibration between the panel that we put here and the metal itself. And you know, we tested the speakers, they sound pretty damn good. Once we put an amp on them, they'll sound amazing. So they're just, right now we're just driving them off of the Pioneer head unit that we threw in the car. So for now, that's what we got going on. Alright, so we are in the passenger side right now, and we're going to tap in to where these wires come up through here. Instead of running our wires through this, we're going to tap in. Speakers are already in there. These are the SA 5 1/4s that are in there. So what I did was I went online and I found a wiring diagram. It says our right front should be light green for the positive and dark green for the negative. And I found those right there. What I need to do is I need to test to make sure that those are right. Now you can do this with a multimeter. Play some music and see if the voltage goes up and down. That works, but right now, oddly enough, we don't have a multimeter sitting around in here in this garage. They're all at work. So I'm going to test this in a different kind of way. So check this out. So I'm opening up these wires before I cut them, just so I can test. Right here, I've got a 9-volt battery that I attached a wire to. The light gray is my positive and dark is my negative. And I'm going to tap these wires, and if I hear the speaker make noise, then I know that that is the speaker. So that, and then tap. Oh, why don't I hear anything? Alright, so I had to take the wire off this little 9-volt battery because I didn't have it taped on good enough, but here, check this out. So we're gonna boom, and then let's see, hear that? That's our speaker. So those are the speaker wires. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut these from the factory system, and I'm gonna tape them off, and I'm gonna tap into these 2 wires right here with my new speaker wire that we just ran, which is right here. And that way we don't have to run through that boot. Alright, so we're going to cut these off, tape them, put them to the side. That way if we ever need to put it back, the wire's there. So we're just going to cut that. The reason why you cut these instead of just tapping into them is because right now these are wired into the stereo. So you don't want to backfeed them back into the radio, so you got to cut them off and make sure you tap into wires going into the door. So we're going to do the same thing with the driver's side as well. All right. So we're going to put this heat shrink on before we do anything else. So you can either heat shrink it, or you can, you know, just use some electrical tape and that'll be fine. We got heat shrink, so might as well use it. And just give yourself enough wire to work with. Twist it up real good. And we're going to tap into these wires here and solder it up. Alright, so I'm laying down in the car. So we're done with this, the passenger side now. And we have to just go do the driver's side. I'm not going to show you that part. It's the same steps. You just find the colors online. If you aren't sure what the colors are, you do a little pop test, or if you got a meter, you can just check it, and then solder up in there. I'm going to try to get out of this car now. Alright, so we have the enclosure in now. Now we got to put the amp rack in, and back there is our mess of wires. It all goes back there. Basically, we're going to leave them long, get the amp in, get everything hooked up, cut everything to fit, and tidy it all up. And this will be ready to go. We've got the bent one of the brackets, but basically we got to put the bracket back and screw it in place, and we'll be good there. So we're going to go ahead and get all this straightened up and get it working. Okay, so we got it all installed here. You see the lights? That's pretty sexy, isn't it? Woofer's installed, lights are installed, amp is installed. Here's how the amp rack fits in. And that hole that we made just made the wires come up through. They come out the back side. These brackets are holding the amp in place, or I'm sorry, the box in place. And then there's two screws, one here and one here, that hold the amp rack in place, and it all screws down to that wood that we put in there earlier. So we've got the front speakers right here, and then there's the inputs. And if you guys remember, we wrote down which color of the RCAs are for what part of which speaker in the vehicle. Now, one thing I want to show you guys when we set all this up is, since this head unit that we're using in this vehicle has crossover settings on it, we're going to set the amplifier to full on the front and rear channel. The subwoofer channel doesn't have a setting for full, so we're just going to have to set everything to low pass. So we're going to set the low pass on, I'll probably set the low pass around 100 Hertz on this, and on the head unit I'll set the low pass at 80 Hertz. Anyway, so full for front, full for rear, and then on the sub channel we'll do 80 Hertz. And the reason why I'm doing full is because on the head unit I can set my crossover points for the front and rear speakers. So I'm going to end up doing probably about somewhere in the 60 to 80 Hertz somewhere around 60 to 80 Hertz for the high pass filter settings for the front and the rear speakers. The rear speakers, since they're in the same trunk space as the subwoofer, I may set the crossover points a little higher. That way there's no phase issues between subwoofer and speaker. So I may do like 100 Hertz on these, since the subwoofer will be set at 80 Hertz. I may do 100 Hertz here, and there'll be like a little sweep, you know. And that way there's no issue with phase, with the speakers working against each other in the same, what's considered enclosure, since it's we're all in the same trunk. So we're going to go ahead and set all these up. Like I said, everything's installed and everything's looking good. If you look, we've got our wires ran for the speakers in the rear deck, and we just zip tied all the wires up through there, and it kind of comes down right here. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and get this sounding good. Unfortunately, due to copyright laws, I can't play any good music for you guys, but we're going to go ahead and set this up and see what the end result comes out to. Sexy.
You got stuff on you.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, well, it's done.
We finally did it.
Yeah, it took us months to do this, by the way. Neither of us had time, and we kept running into different issues. And anyway, it's finally done. And here's the end result. It looks pretty damn sexy if you ask me.
Sounds pretty damn sexy too.
For a simple system, this is just icing on the cake. The amp rack works really well. We did find that there's a little noise alternator whine, so we're going to order a filter system. It's a ground loop isolator is what it's called, and hopefully we can kind of get some of that whine out of the sound. Also, the 4-channel RCAs that I grabbed 17-foot ones. I probably should have grabbed 20-footers because it's like super tight. So if we get the isolator will give us some slack anyway, so that'll be fine. They're like super tight in there. So either we're going to extend them, or the isolator I think should make it long enough. We should be fine. Other than that, it sounds really good. I wish we could play some music for you, but copyright. It's kind of how it goes. We really want to give a big shout out to the companies that helped us on this build. Second Skin Audio. They're running I think if you type in Sundown 10 on their when you go to order from their website, secondskinaudio.com I believe is what it is. You get 10% off, so check that out. It's a big shout out to those guys.
Thank you.
If you looked, we did the whole trunk. And then Excess Power. So Excess Power supplied us with the battery and the terminals that go on top of the batteries, or on the top of the battery, and that allowed us to wire up extra things to it and run our extra wires and all that good stuff. If you remember, we did the ground wire. We redid the ground because the factory ground was just horrible. So we redid that, and that ran down to the chassis. Big shout out to Ben at Extraordinary Audio for helping us get the radio and the install kit and all that good stuff.
And the harness after we messed it up.
Yeah, that was a big thing because I told him the wrong vehicle, the wrong year and model, so unfortunately it was the wrong harness. But he helped us get the right harness. And then who else helped us?
Ray Pereira.
Ray Pereira, dust cap.
Cool Halloween dust cap.
Yeah, big shout out to that guy. If you ever want some cool painted stuff, dust caps, he does some really cool stuff. He also is an authorized sub builder, so he can use our parts to build subwoofers for you. So hit him up. He's in Florida, so if you're local to Florida, he's a good guy to hit up. Check him out on Facebook, Ray Pereira. I don't remember how to spell his name, but I'll put a link down in the description below. And then. George Morris from was it Extreme Car Audio and Customs?
Yep.
Where's he located again? He's in Louisiana.
He's in Alveda Springs, Louisiana.
Louisiana, yeah. So if you're in southern Louisiana, check him out. He does fantastic work. As you can see, the enclosure he built is just beautiful, and the LEDs, that's just another little icing on the cake there. So
it's northern Louisiana.
Is it northern? I think he's south.
I think it's north of
He's in Louisiana. That's a big ass
north. It's north of New Orleans.
Well, New Orleans is at the freaking ocean, so I don't know. Anyway, big shout. Near the Gulf of Mexico, whatever. Anyway, big shout out to everybody that helped us out, and thank you for watching.
Thanks.
I hope that me teaching Donnie and doing the video maybe helped you. I don't know.
I learned a lot.
Donnie did learn a lot.
Yeah. I had to do some stuff twice. Like the LEDs.
Yeah. But the thing is, the whole reason for this build in his system was to teach him the things and how to use the equipment that we make and we talk about on a daily basis. So hopefully it helped me in the technical department, just to help my call level just that much.
Yeah, hopefully it helps.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Subscribe. If you've ever done one of these vehicles, let me see how you've done it. Comment. Don't forget to hit the little bell thing. And guess what? Podcast is coming back.
I hope so.
Yep. I just bought the paint, so
it's final. You just bought the paint.
I bought the paint for the room, so it's going to happen. So Sundown After Dark is coming back.
Cool.
Hey, if you look below the video that you're watching right now, if you look below that, there's a bunch of T-shirts and hats and blankets and all sorts of cool shit. Please purchase. Yoga pants. Any purchase you make goes directly to the podcast room and helping us build, get the studio back up and running. We would super appreciate that. So Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Donnie?
No, I'm super excited to hop in the car and start listening to some music.
Donnie's going to go jam out on his way home.
Yeah,
You guys
absolutely.
have a wonderful evening.
See ya, bye.